Can we talk about how this is the first time that you and I, like Hazel and Odia, are actually working together? It's like the first time.
So does me doing what I did at your previous shows not count as us working together?
I said first time in a while.
Oh, okay. I thought you said first time ever. I would say, what is our relationship then? Because I don't remember.
It's definitely first time in a while because
Oh,
I remember you and I doing something together for the documentary that you were doing back when you were in school.
yes. High
Now,
school.
high school, when
So
we were
good.
both in high school. We were both in high school. Let's make that abundantly clear. But
If
now,
I remember, some of us were in the thick of high school and others were on their way out.
yes, no, I was on my way out. I was on my way out. That was my senior year.
Mhm.
That I remember.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to Tea and Thoughts, Reads in Review Edition. And also our first version where you see our faces. I apologize in advance. My name is Odia. I'm one half of this podcast, but I'm fully excited for what we have planned today.
Hmm. My name is Hazel. I'm also one half of this podcast, and I'm fully galvanized and ready to take the crown.
Galvanized, unionized, and ready to go. Okay, so before we get into our main topic, we start with our wellness check in where we look what's inside our physical and metaphorical cups. So, Hazel, how are you feeling and what are you drinking?
I'm feeling sweaty, like I did last week, but this time sweaty, but with a purpose. And I was drinking mango juice. I should be drinking more water, just for the sheer fact that I don't think I hit my water intake today. But that's okay. We're here. We're fine. What about you?
I'm feeling pretty interested, intrigued at how this is going to work out with the lights, the camera, and the action. And I'm drinking stomach aid tea that you can't see right now because my setup is very meticulous. I'm in the middle of moving, so I can't touch anything, or else this whole thing will come crashing down. But it's good. It's all we're great.
It's fine. We're fine. We're all fine.
So, Hazel, this week the queens were to design a commercial based on a theme of side hustles. So there was Rent a Queen, like Rent Center. There were the exercising queens, and then there were the fixer queens, like Olivia Pope's fixer in Scandal. And they were divided up into three groups to fit these three different themes. So, what did you think about the challenge as a concept?
I thought that the challenge as a concept was fun. I just think that some of the things that they were assigned, I feel like was rigor mortis, in the great words of Alyssa Edwards. Because like some of them you have a lot more freedom to do funny stuff with, right?
Mhm.
Like the winning team, right? With Fix It Bitch, like they definitely had more material to work with and more freedom to work with because they weren't limited to one specific area.
Mhm.
I mean, I think Rent a Queen had potential, but it wasn't tapped. It wasn't the deed was not done. It just wasn't giving what it was supposed to give. And then Exercise Queens, I could see that being fun, but I really think that, and it showed during the episode, that it was constricting because I feel like, I don't know. I mean, maybe there is a jingle that you can make up to make it look as though it's an actual commercial. It just felt like an actual skit rather than it was a commercial. But I don't know. I think the concept as a whole, I guess, was fun. The execution was not. What about you?
No, I definitely thought it was cute. Uh, I don't know why, but when it was the Fixer Queens and then they used the example of Olivia Pope, I was fully expecting them to have a commercial where they would rig drag race in favor of a queen if they called their service. So if I was on the show, which I would never be, but if I was on the show, that's what I would have done. I would have been like, okay, so you call us to fix your drag race experience so you end up being a winner, especially because there's always talk about riggery that happens in the show. I think playing into that would have been a really fun concept, like gluing people's wigs shut and making sure that their heels were 2 sizes too small and sabotaging people's design challenges so that they look a little wild and then shading some queens in the process. Like, that's where I would have went with that, and they kind of went a little bit more literally. I think honestly, conceptually, exercise queens was one where I was just like, okay, interesting as an experience. And that was kind of like the extent of that. Like, I know they went to the exercising demons route instead of an exercise video, because I think they did something like that in like season 2, 3. They had a similar concept. So, oh, it was season 3. So that's kind of how, like, that makes sense to me. But yes, yeah, that's pretty much how I felt about the challenge. I thought it was cute and it made sense.
So this week, the top queen was Trinity K. Bonet, and the bottom queens were Silky, Jan, Ginger, and Akiria. So, in your honest and humble opinion, do you agree with the tops and bottoms of this week?
I agree with the top queen being Trinity. Out of that team, I think, and her team was the Fixer. So out of that team, I do think she was really dynamic, and it was a nice impression compared to when she did her acting challenges her season. So that was nice to see. The bottom queens, because they were graded as assessed as a group, being that group made sense, honestly. So I guess I do agree. I know there were some people, like Ginger was saying, that they said that she did really well in the challenge. So she thinks that she should have not been called with her group. But what people need to remember is that the runway is important. And based on that runway alone, Ginger deserved to be exactly where she was.
Ginger hate crime the entire cast, and for that, she deserved to be in the bottom. That's a conversation we all collectively as a people need to have. And I'm raising my mic and making it visible at this point now because I need people to understand the depth of this hate crime. Period.
But that's the thing that kind of confuses me, though, is that people really focus on the challenges. And to me, the runway is just like another part of the challenge, even if there's no design element to it. Like, you still need to be able to do well there. So do you agree with the tops and the bottoms?
I personally agree with the tops and bottoms this week. I mean, I think the tops and bottoms, I definitely, I fully agree. Especially like with the whole thing about like, if you're in a group, it's a drag race trope at this point, but it's also to be expected that if you're in a group and you guys don't do well, don't be shocked when all of you end up in the bottom. Let's not forget that one season that RuPaul put an entire group, 6 drag queen group, in the bottom to lip sync. Are we surprised?
Yeah, like Akiria and Silky, that was their season. They shouldn't be shocked that at the possibility, but they weren't the ones shocked at the possibility. Yeah. I was mainly Ginger and Jan thinking that they should have been excluded from that experience.
Jan, baby, I love you, but let's have the conversation around the fact that that runway deserved to be in the bottom as well. I said what I said. So that leads me into the next segment of our show, where we talk about sip or stop, where we either really engulf ourselves and sip into what the queen is giving, or we stop it immediately. We cease, we desist, we cut the cameras, dead ass. Purr. What do you think are your top 2 sips of this week and your top 2 stops?
My top 2 sips would have to be, in terms of the runway look, Trinity K. Bonet's look. I thought it was fantastic, period. And I also really enjoyed Scarlett's look. I think because the theme of the runway was redemption, I think the elevation that she brought to that look was tasteful and truly was elevated, like in all forms, head to toe. I also really liked Raja's redemption only because one, it was a look that she went home on, and two, it really was elevated to the maximum extent. So I know the question was 2, but I gave 3, and I'm gonna do it again. My 2 stops, both of them, go to Ginger Minj. Both of them. And then if I have to pick 2 separate people, then the other one would go to Jan. I really did not enjoy Jan's look at all. At all. It's giving, I didn't have enough money for prom, so my mom bought some fabric and I took my varsity uniform and tried to do something nice with it so people remembered I was on the basketball team. Like it's giving all of that, and I didn't need it. I didn't need it. I didn't need it.
No, I have to agree. No, I think my top 2 sips are Sonique, Kylie Sonique Love. Come on now. She is the moment. Now, come on now. I do think, obviously, that there was I don't want to dilute her creativity by saying that this was a lack of creativity, given that it's a literal hand-me-down from Gaga herself. But I just think that that's more the reason to toot it, because it's like if your stamp of approval was given to you by
Gaga. Toot.
Huh?
You said toot it.
Well, yeah, no, like I mean, I know it's sip, but like I would.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry.
I'm gonna get to our thing. I'm gonna.
Let me stay out of drag queen's business. Let me do that.
But no, I fully sip Sonique just for the simple fact that like if Gaga's designer let you have this, bitch, you have to be that bitch. You have to be that bitch. So for that, I'll let it aside. I think she did what she had to be. Like she did what she had to do. She did what had to be done. My second sip, other than Kylie Sonique Love, Scarlett. Like what? I would be remiss to not bring that up because she elevated that look. It gave it the full fantasy. Like the fact that it was a full gown, a complete look. Let's have that conversation because God knows when she wore that wig, not the wig. I was fixing my wig. When she wore that look the first time, it was giving baby queen. It was giving pedestrian. It was giving I have no undies. So the fact that she gave like a full gown with the look, it made sense in my fantasy. So I have to give it a full set. And as far as my 2 stops, all of my stops go to Ginger alone as well, just for the strength of what is that droop? Like I feel robbed. Like she said to us in the Meet the Queens that we were gonna have fashion galore from this mama, and this mama is not giving anything but restraining order. Honestly, if I could emancipate Ginger Minj from her fashion choices this season, I would. But I'm but a woman. I stand by my.
With all that being said, please remember that we recognize that every drag queen works hard.
Oh, for sure. However,
but not all choices are good choices. Like,
not all choices are nonviolent. This is violent. This is borderline hate crime. Like I don't know. Anyway.
Okay, so with the tops and bottoms in mind and the runways in mind, right? So now we know that it's Ginger, Jan, Akira, and Silky. Given into consideration all the material from this episode and the 2 prior, whose lipstick would you have chosen and why?
That is a good question. If that were me, no, I would have sent Silky home too. I would have sent Silky home. Just off the strength that to me, I'm as an audience member, I now know why she's not giving her full capacity. But as a competitor, I would have looked at that and I would have been like, I would have seen, to me, it would have read as, I want to go home. It, it reads as like, I don't have enough fight left to give. So what is there left for me to do? Kind of like, that's what it was giving in the eyes of a competitor. So I would have sent Silky home.
Okay, so not to be messy, right? But if I was Trendy K Bonet and I single-handedly could pick someone to send home, it would have been Ginger. Not because of the look. See, everyone's talking about let's talk about report card. Let's be fair. All this. At the end of the day, no matter what alliances you form on this show, there's only one winner. Unless it's season 4. Right? And that's rare. And it probably won't ever happen again. So it's just like the likelihood that it's going to be a double crowning is extremely low. And the likelihood that it's going to be one person is extremely high. So give it a Ginger. Like at that point, she's considered to be a formidable opponent. Right? And I think that's the reason why Alyssa eliminated her the first time on All Stars 2, is that Ginger's a really tough opponent, and she's someone who's going to give you a run for your money. Well, if you want to run too much, I'm just saying. But that's just me if I was being particularly like strategic. In terms of who deserves to go home, based on what they did, then I think Silky was the more obvious choice. But there are some queens who chose Akira. So I need to know some rhyme, reason, why, because 4 people chose Akira. It was overwhelmingly Silky, but not to that extent. So Akira had a fair shot of going home.
I'm wondering why too. Just because like I didn't think that she did awfully. I think she tried to do what she could with what she had. I don't think like, but also actually no. I think I know why people wanted to send her home. The same reason that we would have wanted to send Ginger home, right? Like, it was a good excuse to send someone home that is a good competitor if they've done terribly that week. Like, it's a very great excuse because then you could just say, I sent you home because you did the worst. And, like, while that may be objectively true, you also have in the back of your mind, like, oh, I'm sending the girl home that I know could take this all the way down to the end of the road. Like she could fully make it to the end. So like if you have that power as a group, why not do it?
Yeah, because I'm thinking like the week before she was in the bottom, so people wanted to take report card into consideration. Like she was one of the bottom 3, but wasn't part of the bottom. Not bottom 3. I think there was 4 of them that were kind of like low key in the bottom. I will say, out of that commercial plus runway, Akira was second to Ginger. Like even though Ginger's runway, we all said we didn't really like, she was an obvious standout in the commercial. But Akira made me laugh the second most, or I thought was the second most funny. To be clear, actually, I don't really like the comedy style that's kind of pushed on RuPaul's Drag Race with the overacting and the drama and the feeding into tropes heavily. Like that's not what I consider to be super funny. Bianca Del Rio is, I think, part of my soul. So that's probably why I appreciate like snarky, quick humor that actually requires a level of intelligence. Like that's why I even like Ben de la Creme at some points in times when it comes to comedy, as opposed to this loud, let's do this, let's be ridiculous, let's flop on the floor, let's lick our can. Like that's not what I find to be particularly entertaining. So that's why I preferred Akira's acting, because it wasn't super like overacting and dramatic and looking for like these cheaper shots of comedy while doing more extreme things. But anyway, if we had to put everyone's things together, then I would put her a second. So in my head, it was more like Jan and Silky more in the bottom 2. If you do the runway plus the challenge, then the others for this episode alone. So interesting. So you would have chosen Silky. If I was feeling mean that day, I would have chosen Ginger. And if I was feeling logical that day, I would have also selected Silky. But that brings us to the lip sync, right? Because you can pick whatever lipstick you want if you were Trinity, but would you be able to show it? So Lip sync assassin. We have.
Laganja. I think it was. Wait, I forget who made the meme, but it
To
was like
jail.
I forget who made the meme, but it was like Laganja, are you there? Like I forget where that meme came from, but I think about that every time I hear Laganja's name. Are you there, God? It's me, Laganja. I'm like, stop.
This is
I think I was from
penitentiary.
Alaska. I think Alaska made that meme at one point. I don't
It
know.
sounds like an Alaska thing to do.
Laganja? Yeah. Yeah.
What do you think about that lip sync, friend?
I think iconography? Come on now. If you look up the definition of iconography, it was that lip sync. I mean, that lip sync had the same level of iconography that Tatiana and Alyssa gave in All Stars 2. And like, not for nothing, the week before with Raja and Brooklyn, that almost gave me a seizure. Let's be abundantly clear. That almost gave me a seizure. This one put me under cardiac arrest. And for that, I have no choice but to stand. So girl, this lip sync made me want to take dance classes.
Wow.
That's exactly what
it's like the energy from that lip sync. Whatever baby was born that night is the next supreme. Like it's
literally either the baby that was born or conceived in celebration of that night. So
yeah. Under the energy of the new moon and the All-Star 6 episode, All-Star 6 episode 3 lip sync, we bring to you our next supreme. And then you just lift up the baby. There's a jolt of lightning that comes through and it pops his tongue and says, "Yes, mama." Is that what's gonna happen?
All yes, that. Mama, the house down boots. Yes, God.
Let's get sickening. Oh my goodness. Okay.
Oh my God.
Well, now we know how you felt about it. Meh. No, I'm just kidding.
Electric chair. Chair. I felt you expeditiously.
I just think that one, Laganja's outfit was better than at least 3 of them girls sitting back there. That's the first thing. The second thing is I like understated reveals. And reveals that don't look like reveals. Like Candy Muse had a decent one in the finale of season 13 where you didn't even know it was going to be a reveal. I think that the outfit and the hair for Laganja was very much on, like she looked beautiful. She looked comfortable. And that's all I was asking for in season 6. And she decided to eviscerate my nerves every single time she spoke. But she's grown and we can see the growth and appreciate it. I want to know what she jumped off of. Was it Aja's box? Like, what was it that she jumped off of when she was first introduced?
I definitely think that if she jumped off of anything, she jumped off of not just Aja's box, but the expectation that we had from going into All Stars 3.
Now, you know you're not right for that. Actually, there were some pretty interesting parts of this episode that I think we should talk about outside of the lip sync. I think one of the first things that comes to mind is Trinity's reaction when all 4 of the queens in the bottom 2 came back. And she was like in the confession, "Do y'all see me?
Do y'all not see me?"
I thought she was voguing for a second. And
I thought she was giving spoken word. That was spoken word.
And she was just like, this is her first challenge win, right? And she would think that everyone would come in and say congratulations, as they would always do. But the queens in the bottom immediately started coming in and pleading their case. And she was like, me.
Right.
I'm not big on validation from people I don't really care about. So RuPaul saying I won the challenge would have been enough for me emotionally because that's the person who I ultimately care about. And the rest of the girls is cool. It's fine. Whether with their congratulations or not, I won the challenge, so I don't really care.
Yeah, no, I kind of feel that too. Where it's like, if I won the I don't think I would have thought that hard about it. I mean, if they didn't congratulate me, I would have just been like, okay, like I like. Mm. But I don't know. It's a different animal when you're there and you're
Right.
sequestered, and the only people you have to interact with are those girls. So
Exactly. And it was a big thing for her in her life. And I think not being able to share that with people that you love and care about, the next best thing are these women. Because she said she didn't have a great relationship with any of them. I said women are these other drag queens. And that
well,
didn't
two of them were in fact women. One is
right,
no
but they
longer.
aren't all women. So I want to make sure I'm being clear. So there's that. And just people, because not everyone is something other than that. So that's one thing. But the other thing that stuck out, which was a new thing for this queen, which was being kind of like timid and vulnerable, was Silky's expression of how her life has been post season 11 with not just the fans, but her work prospects as well. Like, what did you think about that?
Okay, so I've gotten my fair share of gab of talking all this shit about Miss Silky Nutmeg Ganache on this here podcast. But like, I here's the thing that I fully like understood when I was watching that episode. It's like, it's nice to see when people have taken a look at what they have presented during their time and have kind of just been like, yeah, that isn't the legacy I want to leave behind. It's a nice realization to have. I also think in that same sentiment, Silky, I feel bad that Silky had to bring herself down just so she could appease to the people that threw hate at her in her initial season. Because like, here's the thing. I never not once said that Silky wasn't funny. I think Silky is funny. I think she's great. She's humorous. But I also think that there is a level of polish initially in her season, right? And a little bit in this one too, that she could have exhibited. But it's good that she's being mindful now. But I don't think that she should be so mindful that it keeps her from being the person we fell in love with the first time.
I think when it comes to so last episode I was like, I need someone in my hot thought. I said that Akira and Silky uh probably shouldn't be here right now. And I think that this is a prime reason why. It's this development and healing that just has to be done after you do something like RuPaul's Drag Race or any reality show, really, where people got a sample of you under pressure in a very specific environment while you're testing yourself as a person and as an artist. Like all those combinations of things plus whatever editing is done to sway people's perception of you in one way or the other is a lot to take in. Like there are a lot of queens who don't even watch their season over because they don't want to relive that. And when I say that people shouldn't be on All Stars, I want to make it very clear. Everyone deserves to showcase their talent as much as they possibly can. The reason why I think certain people shouldn't be on All Stars at certain times is because it's obviously a very emotionally grueling thing based on what other queens have said, but also in terms of your artistry, that give it some time to breathe and develop so that when you come back, you can think about strategy. You can think about how you want to orient yourself. You can think about the things you want to show, and you can effectively elevate everything you did before because you did that work. So that's the critique I have about Jan, Silky, and Akira being back so soon. And where Raja and Scarlett differ is because I don't think they were able to, and they don't believe that they were able to really showcase the full extent of what they do. And they didn't make it to the top 4 of their season. So that makes complete sense to me, even though it's new. And in Jan's case, it was a whole separate thing of me still not knowing what the fantasy is. And when I figure it out, I will let you all know. I will write a presser.
I can't. No,
because it needs to be uncovered.
not you, not you being the Nancy Drew of figuring out what the Giantasy is.
I want to know so bad because I just want to support it. But I refuse to use words I don't know the meaning of. So with that being said, I do think, and Silky did mention this. She said maybe she did come back too soon.
Yeah.
And she should have really taken time. And I think the best example of this is Shay from the winner of last All Stars. Because it took her how many years? 4 or something? To do this All-Star season and finally get over what happened with Sasha in the finale. Like, she struggled to even the comedy challenge use any examples from that whole rose petal fiasco. Not fiasco. Moment in time.
Historic gay moment.
It was a historic moment, period, okay? No need to put labels.
Yeah, no, actually, yeah, no. It really volumes for creators everywhere.
Yeah. Reveals were never the same after that. And like the wig under the wig,
it gave.
It gave. With all that being said, like it still took Shay a lot of time to get over that and push through it and come back, and talking about it was still difficult. And then the way she integrated it into her look with the rose petals and the paint and that whole thing inspired by Carrie and that experience was a testament to the growth and the development that happened over time. And I do think and I'm not here to talk about anyone's mental health in particular. I don't know any of these queens personally. And even if I didn't, I would feel comfortable. I'm not a clinician, but you can tell as a viewer that Silky was affected by this in a negative way, because it wasn't just the fans. And the fans are not nice to queens of color, particularly the Black ones. And to say that they are is a lie. It's a lie and a farce.
We should look at the case of someone like Shangela, who was not on the show for several years before she came back on, and did the homework she needed to do to overcome the challenges that she faced when she was on her season, and made it to the end. Did she get the crown? No, because there's a bunch of hating assholes that kept her from it. But that's besides the point. I think that that's a prime example, because like Shangela was known to be a strategic queen in her season, so much so to the point where like it almost costed her the crown. I mean, and it did, because she was a little too focused on other people and not enough on her dragging herself towards the end of it. But that's besides the point. Clearly, she made a clear 180 when she came back that third time. You have to give yourself time to look at how you presented on the show, really, really understand on the other end of it what needs to be done to rectify that, and what you need to do to become that person you want to be, and be okay with taking that time to get there. Ms. Cracker was offered All Stars 4, and she said no, because she was like, I want to have something, I want to create enough of a legacy off the show to come back to it. I think that's another example of someone that is really thinking like, okay, let me capitalize off of my drag outside of the show and really show people what I can bring to the show when I get back. That's the mentality that you should have. And if you're coming into it with the mentality of rectifying a mistake or the way that you were perceived initially, that should be a facet that you should consider. I don't think it should be the only facet you should consider. But that's just me. We should get into the next segment that we like to call, what would Ru do? Not what RuPaul do. What would you, Ru, do? And in this segment, we go over what we personally would have done if we were in that situation. So who would, if you were the casting director, who would you like to see more of in terms of the show? Like the current season that we have right now.
The current season, I think the reason why we haven't seen more of these people is because they're being saved for later. But I do wish we got a bit more from Sonique and Scarlett in terms of camera time, particularly the last couple episodes.
Pandora box.
I didn't say that. You did. I'm good off her.
Logs off. No,
No, because I was watching Bussie's video and Bussie did the math. And Jan, Scarlett, and Sonique got way less camera time than Pandora Box did in terms of confessionals. So, like, I'm not hearing a lot about them and their experiences. And I would like to hear more. I do think that Scarlett should be doing better. Like, getting praised more. Not doing better in terms of what she's bringing forward, but getting praised more than she actually is right now, because she's doing, in my opinion, a very good job.
I agree.
And there's a tone difference for her now than in season 11. So I would like to see more of her.
We need to have more discussions around this too, because Scarlett is out here for blood, and I don't think the judges are really giving in on that. I think, I don't know. Maybe they'll give it to her later down the road, but it's really disheartening to see, because I can see the growth in her. And even Akira was like, look at Miss Bitch, just Scarletting. Like, doing what Scarlett does. Like, she's giving. And the girls are not mad about it. They're acknowledging it. As they should.
Attitude and general vibe aside, Scarlett does elicit some same feelings of Valentina has for me. In terms of, I'm gonna continue so I can give you some more insight. In terms of the aesthetics aren't the same, but the refinement to it and the energy that comes into it and the way in which they basically soak up everything that they're wearing and exude that energy, like that, it gives me that. And then the delusion and the way that it doesn't always translate into the reality of their experience all the time. I mean, Valentina was consistently praised on how beautiful she looked all the time. But there is something about that general vibe and style. Like, it's hard not to be captivated by Valentina, even if you don't like her when she's on stage based on how she looks. And I feel like Scarlett has brought a lot of that air to it too, kind of like how Simone does as well. But it for me, in terms of the way I'm receiving the energy, it's like I'm more like when I look at Valentina than when I look at Simone for Scarlett's affect.
I actually would like to see more controversial, I know, but I would love to see more of Pandora. And I think part of why that is because I have such an allegiance to the season 2 girls. Like, because that was the first season I saw of Drag Race. And they feel like my homegirls. They don't know me, but I know them. And like, I root for Pandora. I mean, like, even though her drag is not necessarily what I would do, it's one that I enjoy. And I definitely think that Pandora has so much more to show.
The eliminated queens, they have sharing a dressing room in the back talking about something. It's a game within a game. I would like to see more of them because I know they're still on set somewhere. Okay, friend, it's time for our final segment. The hot thought. Not to be mistaken with hot thought. The hot thought. What's your controversial take? You said it. What's your controversial take on either this episode or a specific queen at this point in time during the game?
Yara's fading in the background. That's my hot thought. Like, that's my hot thought. I said what I had to say.
I feel like that one was on your heart. Like,
I've been waiting. In the great words of Lizzo, I've been waiting for this one. Turn it up.
My hot thought is more like a conspiracy instead of a controversial thing. My conspiracy theory is that these episodes were set up to deteriorate Silky's mental health. And let me tell you why. Not deteriorate, that's a strong word, but definitely to mess with her a little bit. Because the first 2 challenges were the talent show, which doesn't need to happen anymore. It didn't have to happen in the first place, but it doesn't need to happen anymore. And then the design challenge. 2 instances where Silky didn't really do well. And now when she's in her element, finally, She went through 2 weeks of not feeling the most comfortable or confident right out the gate. I'm not saying there's a setup here, but what I'm saying is the way that it's structured right now, there's some clear weaknesses of some queens that were beloved that are being cracked and shown. So I think it's interesting to see what's moving forward. And it's also interesting to see whose favor this is really going. But with that, it's the end of our show. Where can they find us, Hazel?
So they can find us at Tea Thoughts Pod. That's TEATHOUG, not J, G, HTS Pod on Twitter, Instagram, and Tickety Talk.
I thought you were going to say Facebook again.
And maybe on Grindr. No, I'm kidding.
Whoa.
Absolutely. Whoa. Kidding, I'm playing.
No, I just have so many questions. Like, what image did they use? Our logo?
I'm screaming. Yeah, no, that's that on that. And with that being said, thank you for tuning in. We love you all. Let us know what you think of this episode and more. On the comment section, on our Twitter, on our Tickety Talkety, our Instagram, and
if you know us, in our text messages.
Please, because we'd love to hear. But with that being said, have a good night / morning / dusk, dawn, wherever. And
Twilight, new moon.
Huh?
I said twilight, new moon.
Anyway, bye.